Tom stood near the edge of the landing platform, looking out at the city of Jeria. The air was cool and smelled faintly of iron and flowers. Tall white towers reached into the sky, their surfaces glowing faintly under the twin moons. Strange. Flying creatures passed between buildings, and the streets below were alive with music, voices, and color. Everything was so different from Earth. He was not a soldier or a hero. Tom had been chosen simply because he was calm, patient, and willing to listen. Earth needed peace with other worlds, and Jeria was one of the most powerful planets in the region. The leaders wanted someone who would not make mistakes or cause problems. Tom had never expected to be picked, but when the message came, he said yes. He wore a plain suit with the Earth emblem on his shoulder. No armor, no weapons, only a small translator on his wrist. He had been living in Jeria's guest quarters for 2 weeks now. Every day, he learned something new. Their language was hard, but their people were kind and curious. They had soft voices and glowing eyes, and they moved with slow grace. But no one spoke about the Queen. Tom had heard stories. Queen Arala was said to be the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Some said she never smiled. Some said she could stop a storm with her hands. Some even believed she had lived for 100 years. But no one had seen her in public in a long time. Her name was spoken with respect and fear. Tom didn't think much about it. He had a simple routine: eat, learn, walk the gardens, take notes for his report. He was not allowed near the palace center, and that was fine with him. He liked quiet. One afternoon, while walking near the outer garden, Tom heard a strange cry. He turned and saw a small alien child lying on the ground. Her leg was twisted, and she was trying not to cry. The nobles nearby simply walked past her without a glance. Tom rushed forward and knelt beside her. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. The girl looked up with wide, glowing eyes. She didn't speak English, but her face showed pain and fear. Tom gently helped her sit up. He used his translator to ask for help, and after a few moments, a healer arrived. Before the girl was taken away, she held onto Tom's hand tightly. She whispered something, and Tom didn't understand the words, but he smiled and patted her shoulder. Then she was gone. Tom stood up, dusted off his hands, and turned back toward his quarters. He didn't see the tall figure watching from the balcony above the garden. The figure said nothing, only narrowed her eyes and lowered her hood. The next morning, Tom was finishing breakfast when a royal messenger arrived. He was dressed in golden armor and held a scroll. "You are summoned to the palace," the messenger said. Tom blinked. "Me? Yes. Now." Tom followed without asking questions. He was led through wide halls lined with silver and blue banners. Light floated like mist along the ceiling. Guards stood at every corner, silent and still. Finally, they reached a large door covered in crystal patterns. It opened slowly, and Tom stepped inside. The throne room was quiet. At the far end stood the queen's seat, made of black stone and lined with silver vines, and sitting upon it was Queen Arala. Tom stopped. She was tall and proud, with silver markings across her arms and face. Her eyes were bright gold, and her hair fell like water down her back. She wore a long cloak that shimmered with every movement. She did not smile. She did not speak. Tom bowed carefully. He felt his chest tighten. This was not a woman who could be read easily. "You are the human from Earth," she said. Her voice was soft but strong. "Yes, Your Majesty," Tom replied. "You helped a child in my garden." Tom hesitated. "Yes, I didn't know she is the daughter of a noble," the queen said. "You acted without fear, without gain." "Why?" Tom looked up. "Because she was hurt. That's all." The queen stood. Her steps were silent as she walked down the throne steps and stopped in front of him. She looked into his eyes, searching. "You are different from the others," she said. Tom didn't answer. He wasn't sure if that was good or bad. "You wear no armor. You carry no weapon. You speak softly, and yet you do not look away." She circled him once, then stopped. "You will stay close to the palace from now on," she said. "This is my order." Tom's mouth opened slightly. "I don't understand." "You will," she said, and turned away. Guards appeared again, silent as before. One of them motioned for him to follow. Tom left the throne room with 100 thoughts in his head. He didn't know what had just happened, or why the queen had noticed him at all. But something told him his life on Geria had just changed forever. Above the palace, the twin moons began to rise again, and deep within her chambers, Queen Arala looked out over the city and whispered to herself, "He is mine." Tom's new room was not like the guest quarters he had stayed in before. It was part of the royal palace, located close to the east wing. The walls were smooth white stone, and the floor was soft. Under his feet, a wide window showed a perfect view of the floating gardens and silver waterfalls. There were no guards inside, but he knew eyes were always watching. He had no idea why the queen had ordered him to stay in the palace. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a leader. He was just a visitor from Earth, chosen for a peace mission. And now he was inside the most protected part of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Still, he did as he was told. Each morning, a servant brought him food fruits that glowed faintly, warm bread made from local grains, and tea with a taste he could not describe. Each afternoon, a quiet figure in white robes led him through the palace. They showed him the halls, the art, the history, but none of them answered his questions. He only saw the queen once more that week. It was during the evening meal. A long table had been set in one of the sky rooms, with glass walls that gave a clear view of the stars above. Noble guests from different parts of Geria sat on either side, dressed in colorful robes and shining jewelry. Tom had been told to wear a simple black tunic with a silver belt. He didn't know what it meant, but everyone noticed him when he entered. Then the queen arrived. She walked in without music or fanfare, but all voices stopped the moment she entered. She wore a long violet robe with silver threads running across it like rivers. Her crown was shaped like rising wings. When she sat down, no one else moved until she gave a silent nod. To Tom's surprise, a servant pointed to the empty seat next to her. He paused, unsure, but then walked slowly toward it and sat down. The nobles stared. Some of them whispered behind their hands. One or two even looked angry. The queen poured herself a drink, then turned to Tom. "You've been quiet," she said. Tom nodded. "I didn't know what to say." She tilted her head slightly. "And now, I still don't know." Queen Arala gave the smallest smile. "That is better than pretending," she said. The meal began. Dishes were brought in one after another, soft meats, sweet vegetables, and strange desserts shaped like stars. Tom ate slowly, watching the others. The nobles barely spoke to him. A few gave polite nods. Most avoided his gaze. Halfway through the meal, a young noble leaned forward. He had sharp features and a long golden robe. "Your Majesty," he said, "may I ask why the human has been placed at your side?" The queen did not look at him. She picked up a small fruit and took a slow bite before answering. "Because that is where he belongs." The table went quiet again. Tom's hands froze. He looked at her, unsure what to say. Was it a compliment, a command, a warning? After dinner, she stood and walked toward the balcony. Tom followed her, uncertain but curious. The stars above were bright, forming patterns he had never seen before. "Do you feel fear?" she asked him suddenly. He looked at her. "Sometimes, but not now." "Good," she said. "Fear blinds people. You see clearly." Tom rested his hands on the railing. "I don't understand why I'm here." "You're here because I chose you," she said. "Do you think I make choices without reason?" "No," he said. "But I don't see the reason." "You will." She turned and walked away, her robe trailing behind like a wave. Tom stood alone for a long moment, watching the stars. He could hear music rising from below, soft and slow. The city of Geria was alive, but quiet, peaceful. The next morning, Tom woke up early. The same quiet servant brought him food, but this time there was also a message. "The queen wants you in the southern garden." Tom dressed quickly and followed the path. The southern garden was vast and filled with trees that shimmered in the morning light. Birds with crystal feathers flew above, and streams of glowing water ran between the stones. The queen was already there, Walking alone, Tom walked toward her and bowed lightly. She didn't speak for a while. They walked side by side down a path, lined with silver grass. "This place belonged to my mother," she said at last. "She planted every tree here." Tom looked around. "It's beautiful." She believed in peace, even when the galaxy didn't. Tom nodded. "My people believe in peace too. That's why I came." The queen stopped beside a small tree with white leaves. She touched one of the branches. "Most people speak of peace," she said. "Few act with it." Tom said nothing. He remembered the child in the garden. He hadn't done anything special. He had just helped someone who needed help. But maybe that was rare here. The queen turned to face him. "There are many eyes on you now," she said. "Some will test you. Some will try to push you away." Tom looked back at her. "And you? I will see what you truly are." They stood in silence for a long time. A soft wind passed between them. "Return here each morning," she said. "I will meet you when I can." Tom nodded as he turned to leave. She called his name one last time. "Tom." He looked back. "Never lie to me. Not even to protect yourself." "I won't," he said. He meant it. The queen watched him go, her face calm. But inside her mind, thoughts moved quickly. The human was not like the others. He was not chasing power. He was not wearing a mask, and that made him dangerous in a very different way, but also valuable. The Royal Combat Games were one of the oldest and most honored traditions on Geria. Held once every 10 years, they brought together the strongest fighters from across the planet. Nobles, warriors, and champions came to prove their skill in front of the queen. It was not a war, it was a celebration of strength, loyalty, and pride. This year, the arena was larger than ever. Thousands of people filled the high stands. Colored banners danced in the wind above the crowd. Flying cameras moved silently, capturing every moment. Drums beat steadily as the first fighters entered the circle. Tom sat quietly in the royal balcony, unsure why he had been invited. The queen sat beside him. Her robe was dark green with silver trim. Her crown today was smaller, shaped like a ring of leaves. She said nothing at first, just watched the crowd. The nobles around them kept glancing at Tom. Some looked confused, others looked insulted. Tom kept his hands folded in his lap. He didn't belong here, and he knew it. But he also knew the queen had chosen this seat for him. So he stayed still and respectful. A loud voice echoed through the air. "Let the games begin." The first match started with two tall warriors, one with blue armor, the other with red. Their blades clashed with sparks. Their movements were fast, graceful, like a dance of fire and steel. The crowd cheered as they fought, shouting the names of their favorite houses. Tom watched with wide eyes. These warriors were unlike anything he had seen on Earth. They moved with power and purpose. But more than strength, there was respect in their fights. No dirty tricks, no cruelty. After 3 rounds, the red-armored warrior won. The queen gave a soft nod of approval, and the crowd roared. More matches followed. A giant woman with glowing skin fought a beast-like fighter with 4 arms. A twin pair of soldiers worked together against a single champion. Each match showed a different style, a different kind of strength. Then came the special exhibition match. A noble warrior named Colin stepped forward. He was tall, with long silver hair tied back. His armor was gold and white. He was known as one of the queen's distant cousins, and he often spoke loudly in court. Tom had seen him before, always walking with pride and a sharp tongue. Colin bowed to the queen. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice clear, "I wish to dedicate this match to you." The crowd clapped politely. The queen gave a small nod. Colin smiled, then turned to the servant beside the ring. "Bring me a true challenge." The servant hesitated. "Who would you prefer, my lord?" Colin's eyes turned toward the royal balcony. Tom felt something change. The air around him felt heavier. Colin raised his voice again. "Let the queen's guests show us what strength humans truly have." Gasps filled the crowd. Tom blinked. "What?" The queen did not move. Her face remained calm. "You are joking," Tom said, half rising from his seat. "No joke," Colin said, smiling. Do you not wish to stand among warriors? Tom shook his head. I didn't come here to fight. You came to sit beside the queen, Colin replied. That makes you part of the games. Some people laughed, others remained silent, unsure. Tom turned to the queen. Her golden eyes met his. If you wish to refuse, she said softly, no shame will follow you. Tom looked down at his hands. He had no armor, no weapon. He wasn't trained for battle. But he saw something in Colin's eyes, a challenge not just to him, but to everything he represented. Earth, peace, humility. Tom stood up. I'll step into the ring, he said. But I won't fight with a sword, the crowd murmured. He walked down the steps slowly, heart pounding in his chest. A servant offered him a training blade, but he shook his head. In the ring, Colin laughed. Brave or foolish? We shall see. Colin raised his sword, shining with bright gold light. Tom raised nothing. He simply stood there, arms relaxed at his sides. The signal rang. Colin moved fast, swinging his sword in a wide arc, aiming to scare. Tom stepped back quickly, then ducked. He didn't fight back. He dodged, blocked with his arms, rolled on the ground. The crowd watched in silence. Colin struck again and again, but Tom refused to fight. He was fast, careful, and calm, even as his shirt was torn and dust covered his face. He didn't raise a hand in anger. Finally, Colin stopped. He was breathing hard, frustrated. You mock me. Tom stood tall. I respect the games, but I won't strike without reason. Then he looked up at the queen. I came here for peace. The queen stood slowly. Her voice rang clear through the air. He did not lift a weapon. He did not speak with anger. And yet, he stood against you. She paused. He is mine. Silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Tom stood frozen, unsure what had just happened. The words echoed in his mind. He is mine. Then the crowd cheered. It was not loud at first, but it grew stronger, wave after wave. Some clapped, some raised their hands, and Colin stepped back, face red, bowing without another word. The queen walked down from her seat. She stopped in front of Tom. You have shown something greater than strength, she said. You have shown heart. Tom bowed his head. I only did what I thought was right. That is why you will stay by my side, she said. And with that, she turned, her robe trailing behind like a river in the wind. Tom followed, still stunned. The queen had spoken. And now, nothing would be the same. After the royal games, Tom's name spread across the city like a spark in dry grass. People in the markets whispered his name. Servants in the palace passed quiet glances whenever he walked by. Even nobles, who once ignored him, now watched him closely. Some praised him. They said he was brave, that he stood without weapons, that he faced a royal noble and showed strength in a new way. Others were not so kind. They saw him as an outsider, a threat, someone who had no place beside their queen. Tom tried to ignore it all. He followed his daily routine every morning. He walked in the southern garden every afternoon. He read history texts and learned more about Jeria's customs. The queen sometimes joined him for short conversations, always calm, always watching. She never repeated the words she had spoken in the arena, but she didn't need to. Everyone remembered them. He is mine. Tom couldn't forget them either. One evening, while sitting in the palace library, Tom noticed something strange. A shadow moved past the tall window. He stood up and stepped outside. The hallway was quiet, the lights dim. A breeze passed through the open balcony door. No one was there, but on the ground, just beside the door, was a small feather. It was white, soft, and shining faintly. Tom picked it up and held it between his fingers. He remembered what someone had told him during his early days here. The queen's personal guards leave a white feather where they've protected someone without being seen. Someone had been watching over him. He didn't know if he felt safer or more exposed. That night, he had trouble sleeping. The next morning, he visited the southern garden as usual. The queen was already there. She stood beneath the tree with white leaves, her hands behind her back. You look tired, she said. I didn't sleep much, Tom replied. Because of fear. Tom shook his head. because of questions. The queen gave a small nod, asked, "Why did you say those words in the arena?" He asked, "Why he is mine." She looked at him for a long moment, because it was necessary. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give for now." Tom sighed but didn't press further. They walked through the garden paths, silent for a while. Birds chirped in the trees above. The sound of flowing water calmed his mind, but not fully. "You've made enemies," the queen said suddenly. Tom looked at her. "I noticed. Some feel you've taken a place that belongs to others. Some fear your presence means change." "I didn't ask for a place," he said. "I just wanted to help." "That's what makes you dangerous to them." She stopped walking. "There are people in this palace who do not serve the crown. They serve only themselves." Tom's expression grew serious. "You're in danger," she said. "And now, because of me, you are part of that danger." Tom nodded slowly. "What should I do?" "Watch, listen, speak only when needed. And if you sense something wrong, come to me first." Tom agreed. That same evening, during a gathering in the Star Hall, the queen introduced Tom to several council members. One was a tall man with golden tattoos named Lord Heron. He smiled too much and asked too many questions. "Do you miss Earth?" Heron asked. "Sometimes." Tom answered. "Do you ever wonder why the queen chose you?" Tom looked him in the eye. "I trust her reasons." Heron laughed lightly, as you should. But Tom could feel the weight behind his words later, as he walked back to his room. Tom passed a quiet hallway near the East Tower. The lights flickered above him. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, but no one was there. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped out. The person wore dark robes and a hood. Their face was covered. "You should leave." The voice whispered. Tom froze. "They will not let you stay." "Who are you?" Tom asked. A voice in the dark. The figure replied, "You were kind to a child. You were honest in the arena. That's why she chose you. But others, they don't care for kindness." "I'm not afraid," Tom said. "You should be." The figure reached into their robe. Tom stepped back, heart pounding. But instead of a weapon, the figure handed him something small, a folded piece of paper. "Read this when you're alone." Before Tom could say another word, the figure slipped back into the shadows and disappeared. Tom hurried to his room and locked the door behind him. He unfolded the paper. Inside was a map of the palace and a single sentence written in clear block letters. "They meet here tomorrow at midnight." No name, no seal, nothing else. Tom stared at the map for a long time. Then, he folded it again and placed it under his pillow. He needed to decide, should he follow this warning or take it straight to the queen? He remembered her words, "Come to me first." But he also remembered the voice, "They will not let you stay." For now, he said nothing. He would wait, watch, and be ready. Whatever was hiding in the shadows of the palace, it had started to move. And Tom knew he was no longer just a guest. He was part of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. The next morning, the sky above Jeria was covered with silver clouds. The sun was hidden, and the air felt heavy. In the palace, the halls were quiet, but Tom could feel something deeper beneath the silence. He hadn't told the queen about the secret message yet. He kept the map hidden in his coat, close to his chest. All night, he had stared at it, wondering what to do. Someone was warning him about a meeting. Someone who said he was in danger. But if he went straight to the queen, would that warning disappear forever? Or worse, would it be a trap meant to test his loyalty? When the soft knock came at his door, Tom stood up at once. A servant stood outside. "Her Majesty requests your company. She asks that you meet her in the southern garden." Tom nodded and followed the quiet servant through the white stone corridors. The garden was cool under the cloudy sky. The birds were silent. The streams ran slower than usual. At the far end of the path, Queen Aurora stood beside a tall crystal tree. She was not in her usual robes. She wore a simple gray dress with no crown. "You came," she said, not turning to face him. "You asked." Tom replied, "I wanted no guards, no council, just us." Tom walked beside her. They stood together, the tree's branches glowing faintly above them. "Do you know what this tree is?" she asked. Tom shook his head. No, it's the memory tree, she said. It remembers the thoughts of those who touch it, but only emotions remain. Not words, not faces, just feelings. She gently touched the bark. A soft blue light rose up the trunk and disappeared. When I was a child, she continued, I used to sit here with my sister. We were not queens or leaders back then, just girls playing under the sky. Tom remained quiet. Her voice was softer than usual, more human. My sister wanted to explore the stars. I wanted to protect our world. We were close. But the war changed everything. She looked up at the clouds. There was a time when Jeria was divided. Families fought each other. Even the palace wasn't safe. My sister died trying to stop a battle. She went alone, thinking she could bring peace with words, but they didn't listen. Tom lowered his head. I'm sorry. She believed in peace, like you do, Aral said. But she was too trusting. She didn't see the knives in the dark. Tom slowly reached into his coat and pulled out the folded paper. I found this last night. He said, someone warned me. They said there's a meeting happening in the palace tonight, midnight. Arala took the paper from his hand. She read it carefully, then folded it again. I see. I didn't know if I should come to you right away, Tom said. But I remember what you told me. So I did. The queen nodded. You did the right thing. She didn't look angry or surprised. Instead, she looked tired. There have always been shadows in this palace, she said. But now they are moving more boldly. Do you know who's behind it? Tom asked. I have guesses. But guesses are not enough. I need truth. She stepped forward and looked into his eyes. That's why I need you, me. Yes, you are the only one they don't expect. You can move where I cannot. Tom hesitated. You want me to go to that meeting? No, she said. That would be too dangerous. But I want you to observe. Find out who attends. Don't speak. Don't act. Just listen, and then return to me. Tom nodded slowly. I can do that. The queen looked at the sky again. There is something else I want you to know, she said. Something I've never told anyone outside my council. Tom waited. I never wanted to be queen, she said. When my father died in battle, and my sister was gone, the crown was placed on my head. I accepted it not out of pride, but duty. You've done more than most rulers could, Tom said. She gave a faint smile. You see the outside. You don't see the weight. Tom looked at her face. It was calm, but her eyes told a different story. They held sadness, strength, and a long, quiet pain. I see you, he said. That surprised her. She looked at him for a long moment. Then, she turned and began to walk back toward the palace. Meet me here tomorrow morning, she said. We'll talk again after tonight. Tom watched her go. The gray dress moved gently in the breeze. For the first time since arriving on Jeria, he didn't see her as a ruler or a legend. He saw her as a person. That night, the palace was lit by tall silver lamps. The halls were guarded as usual, but Tom moved carefully, sticking to the map. He avoided main corridors, staying in the shadows. His heart beat hard in his chest. But his steps were quiet. The secret room was deep below the east wing, hidden behind a statue. Tom waited just outside, hiding behind a pillar. Voices echoed from inside. This is the time, said one. The queen is distracted. She favors the human. It weakens her image. Another voice, colder, replied, we must act soon. We cannot let her change everything. The line must remain pure. We strike during the celebration next week, said a third voice. She will be surrounded. Easy to blame it on outsiders. Tom held his breath. His hands were shaking, but he listened closely to every word, every name spoken. After 20 minutes, the meeting ended. The nobles left one by one, their robes brushing against the stone floor. Tom waited until the last one disappeared. Then he returned to his room. As fast as he could dot by sunrise, he was back in the southern garden. The queen was already there. Well, she asked. Tom gave her the names, the words, the plan. She listened quietly, then placed her hand on the memory tree. I will handle this, she said. You've done your part. Tom nodded. What now? Now, she said, We prepare for the storm. The night air was thick with tension. Tom stood in the palace courtyard, his breath visible in the cold. Round him, the royal guards prepared silently, checking their weapons and armor. The great walls of the palace loomed overhead, tall and unyielding. But Tom knew that no wall could stop what was coming. The queen had gathered her closest allies after hearing the secret plan. The rebels would strike during the upcoming celebration. The very people who swore loyalty to her had turned their backs. They wanted power, and they believed they could take it by force. Tom's hands were steady, but his heart raced. He had never held a weapon before coming to Jeria, yet now he carried a sword forged by the queen's best smiths. It was light in his hand and strong, not because of its metal, but because it represented trust. The gates of the palace opened slowly. Figures in dark cloaks slipped inside like shadows. The first attackers were quick, striking without warning. The royal guards rushed forward to meet them, swords clashing under the cold moonlight. Tom moved with them, side by side. His training was new, but his courage was real. He dodged a sharp blade aimed at his head, then pushed an attacker away with all his strength. Around him, the sounds of battle echoed, the clash of metal, shouted commands, and the cries of the wounded. From above, the palace towers shone with light. Queen Orala appeared on the highest balcony. She raised her hands, and a soft glow spread. From her fingertips, energy filled the air, lighting the sky with colors like lightning but without thunder. Her power was like a storm held in a single person. The attackers faltered, pushed back by the queen's strength. She did not fight with weapons. She fought with the power of her will, protecting the palace and those she loved. Tom saw a figure moving fast toward the queen, a tall man with cruel eyes and a twisted sword. Tom's mind sharpened. He rushed forward, blocking the attackers. "Path, you will not harm her," Tom said, voice firm. The attacker laughed and swung his blade. Tom dodged, then grabbed the man's wrist. With all his strength, he twisted and pushed him away. The man stumbled but recovered quickly. They fought fiercely, blade against hand, behind Tom. Other rebels tried to break through the guards. The courtyard was chaos, but Tom did not fear. He fought with everything he had learned, every lesson from the queen, and his own heart. Suddenly, a heavy blow struck him from behind. Tom fell forward, the breath knocked out of him. Pain burned in his side, but he refused to give up. He pushed himself up just as the attacker raised his sword for a final strike. Before the blade could fall, a shield of light surrounded Tom. Queen Orala had moved beside him, her eyes bright and fierce. She reached out and touched his shoulder. The attacker froze, then dropped to his knees. The queen stood between Tom and the enemy. "He is under my protection," she said loudly. The remaining rebels hesitated. The queen's presence was stronger than any sword. One by one, they dropped their weapons or fled into the night. When the battle ended, the courtyard was quiet again. Many guards and attackers lay wounded, but none were dead. The queen walked slowly to Tom's side. "You stood with me when others fled," she said. "You chose to fight for this world." Tom nodded, exhausted but proud. "You have proven yourself more than any warrior here," she continued. "You are part of Jeria now." The nobles who had planned the attack were arrested and taken away. The queen called a council meeting to restore order. Tom was invited to sit beside her at the table. The same nobles who had doubted him now looked at him with respect. The queen's voice was calm but firm. "We will rebuild, we will heal, and we will protect our people from those who seek to destroy us." Tom felt a quiet strength grow inside him. He was no longer just a visitor or an observer. He was a protector, a partner to the queen. That night, as the palace settled into peace, Tom and Orala stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The stars shone bright above, silent witnesses to the battles won and the future ahead. "You saved my life," the queen said softly. "You saved mine too," Tom replied. They looked at each other, understanding passing between them without words. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but together they could face whatever came next. The palace was calm in the early morning. The stars were fading, and the first light of dawn touched the tall white towers of Jeria. Tom stood by the window of his room, looking out at the city. The events of the past weeks had changed everything. The rebels were gone. The palace was safe. The queen's power was stronger than ever. But more than that, Tom felt a new connection, a place where he belonged. A soft knock came at the door. Tom turned and saw a servant bowing quietly. Her Majesty asks to see you in the throne room? Tom nodded and followed the servant through the marble halls. The air smelled of flowers and warm stone. When he arrived, the room was filled with light. The queen stood before her throne, calm and graceful as always. Come, she said. Tom stepped forward and bowed. The queen smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her. You have done more than anyone could expect. Tom shook his head. I only did what I thought was right. She walked toward him slowly. That is why I choose you. Tom looked up, surprised. I have decided, she said, that you will stay by my side, not just as a guest or protector, but as my partner. The room was silent. Tom's heart beat fast. Partner? Yes, in the eyes of the people and the stars, you are now part of my reign. She took his hand gently. This is not a title given lightly, she said. It means trust, respect, and responsibility. Do you accept? Tom thought for a moment. All the fear and doubt he had felt melted away. He saw the future full of challenges, but also hope. I accept, he said clearly. The queen smiled again, warmer now. Then let us begin. News of the queen's decision spread quickly. The people of Jeria welcomed Tom with open arms. He was no longer an outsider, but a symbol of unity between Earth and Jeria. Together, they worked to strengthen the bond between their worlds. Tom learned more about the queen's duties. He attended meetings, traveled with her across the planet, and met leaders from other galaxies. Each day brought new lessons and new friends. The queen and Tom grew closer. They shared stories of their pasts, their hopes, and their fears. Though from different worlds, they understood each other in ways few could. One evening, as they stood on the balcony, the twin moons rose bright and full. Do you ever miss Earth? The queen asked softly. Tom smiled. Sometimes, but I have found a new home here. She took his hand. And I have found someone who sees me as more than a queen. Tom looked into her golden eyes. I am proud to stand with you. The stars above seemed to shine brighter. The galaxy was vast, but together they were strong. A new chapter had begun, not just for the queen and the human, but for all who dreamed of peace and courage in the stars. The end.